Tonight, the police case against accused killer Beau Lamar Condon. Allegations he hired cleaners to mop up the Paddington crime scene. The deaths of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies casting a shadow over tomorrow's Mardi Gras. Also tonight, a Cogra industrial estate evacuated, and M6 tunnelling stopped as a giant sinkhole opens up under a building. Massacre accusations. Palestinians claim Israeli forces opened fire on Gazan civilians waiting for food. From cost of living to border security, the Prime Minister and opposition leader battle for votes in a key suburban by-election. And Las Vegas comes alive with rugby league fans ahead of Sunday's historic double-header.
This is 9 News with Georgie, Gardner.
Good evening. We begin with shocking new details in the alleged double murder of Jessie Baird and Luke Davies. 9 News has obtained the police fact sheet revealing the case against Constable Beau Lamar Condon. It includes allegations of how he went about cleaning up a trail of evidence and how close Jessie's housemate came to uncovering the crime.
A time for the force to celebrate after one of the darkest periods in its history. At the Goulburn Police Academy today, 158 new police officers reported for duty after an official swearing-in ceremony. In 2018, Beau Lamar Condon made the same oath, only to break it by allegedly killing 2 men, Jessie Baird and Luke Davies, and disposing of their bodies in surfboard bags.
This is a much bigger, prouder organisation than one person that's currently before the court.
And the facts that will be presented to the court paint a picture of the lengths that Beau Lamar Condon allegedly went to cover up his crime. At around the time of the shooting on the Monday, a 000 call was made from Davis's phone. A male voice could be heard shouting, "Get out, off," before the call was terminated. At 8 p.m. that same night, a housemate returned to the Paddington home and saw 2 surfboard bags lying outside near the roller door. They were covered with a tarp. The housemate took 3 photographs and prodded them with their finger, unaware there were bodies inside. In a statement of facts obtained by the Sydney Morning Herald, New South Wales Police will allege that they found 3 cleaners in the process of cleaning the premises 2 days after the alleged murder. They had mopped half the wooden floor before police arrived and stopped them. Police will also allege they found blood staining consistent with the body bleeding heavily under the floorboards in the kitchen, a bullet hole and a .40 calibre cartridge on top of the kitchen cupboard. A post-mortem examination on the body of Jessie Baird has confirmed what police always believe, that he died from a gunshot. It will be alleged that shot was fired from Lamar Condon's police service weapon. An autopsy on Luke Davies' body is expected to produce the same results. Damien Ryan, 9 News.
And Damien Ryan joins me now at the desk. Damo, you have more extraordinary allegations contained in that report.
Absolutely, Georgie. It was Jessie Baird's mother who first raised concerns and the alarm about Beau Lamar Condon. On the day before he was arrested, Jessie's mother contacted Victorian police and told them her son was being stalked by a police officer known only as Beau. She claimed he regularly turned up at his house unannounced. The police facts also state she was of the belief that if anything happened to her son, that Beau would be responsible. Now, these allegations are all part of the case that led to Beau Lamar Condon being charged with 2 counts of murder. Georgie?
Damien Ryan, thank you. And a vigil is about to start at Darlinghurst to remember Jessie Baird and Luke Davies a week after their alleged killer was charged with their murders. Our reporter James Wilson is there. James, just describe the mood if you could.
Georgie, this vigil is being described as a solemn celebration remembering Jessie and Luke. We're at Green Park in Paddington, around 500 metres from the terrace where these tragic murders took place. And tonight is really a chance for the first time for friends and colleagues to gather together and remember these 2 young men, not for how they died, but for how they lived. This vigil starts at 6:30. It will be a silent vigil, allowing people to stop in and reflect and remember at their own time. There will be a slideshow for these 2 young men, as well as a condolence book. I've spoken to a number of people here who say it's very important to do this at this time, particularly ahead of the Mardi Gras weekend. Georgie.
James Wilson, thank you. And the deaths of Jessie and Luke are casting a shadow over the biggest night of the year for Sydney's LGBT community. The 46th annual Sydney Gay and Lesbian Mardi Gras will light up Oxford tomorrow night, but the celebrations will be tinged with sadness.
Mardi Gras Eve, always a spectacle of colour and excitement. This year, though, some of that sparkle is missing.
These past weeks, we've also been a city and a community in mourning for beautiful and precious young lives lost.
Jessie Baird and Luke Davies will be remembered tomorrow night by friends and workmates. Qantas cabin crew adding Luke's name and angel wings to their flying kangaroo float. But even prior to their murders, allegedly at the hands of a serving police officer, tensions were high. On Sunday, Police Commissioner Karen Webb apologised for decades of police behaviour and attitudes towards gay hate crimes prior to 2010.
I witnessed ugly scenes, I've got to say, and I think we've come a long way and we don't want to go back.
Police will march tomorrow night, Commissioner included, but not in uniform and likely in lower numbers.
You know, I'm not pretending that it's perfect, but at the end of the day, police can march and that's a good thing.
An event of this size on Oxford Street means there will, of course, be a very visible police presence outside of the parade itself. Police and organisers say they've worked together closely to ensure this is a safe event, and everyone hopes it stays that way.
Mardi Gras is all about inclusion, and I'm hoping that that is reflected in the way that they treat everyone in parade, including the police and police supporters that will be marching.
For now, a movement born out of protest is preparing to shine.
My wife and I thought, well, let's do a Barbie-themed float, and we thought lesbian Barbie. Lesbian!
As the world looks to Sydney for a celebration of love. In the city, Jane Azzopardi, 9 News.
Work is tonight underway to fill in a massive sinkhole which collapsed under an office building in Rockdale. Investigators are now working to determine whether tunnelling for the nearby M6 is to blame.
A 2-storey office teetering on the edge of a 10-metre wide sinkhole. The ground opening up at a Rockdale industrial complex just after 5 a.m. this morning.
In an unrelated section there was approximately 10 people working which were evacuated, but the building that is of concern, there was no one working in that office.
The rest of the complex shut down, workers told to go home for the day.
I just pulled up on the motorbike and the lady at the door just said, can't let you in for today. Now we've got the day off, so I'm happy with that.
Got to come down and see for myself and see how warped the building is.
An exclusion zone put in place along West Botany Street as fire and rescue crews moved in to assess and secure the site. Meanwhile, below the surface, workers on the M6 tunnel were also moved to safety. A section of the tunnel partially collapsed. Works on the Rockdale M6 site now put on hold indefinitely.
I know that the builders of the road regarded that part as one of the most tricky because it's the closest to the surface.
Just 16 metres separates the industrial park from the tunnel below. It's the highest point of the 4-kilometre long construction site, which runs under several suburbs from Arncliffe to Cogra.
There is a certain inherent risk and unpredictability about working underground.
Investigators will also turn to their notes on the Lane Cove tunnel collapse during construction in 2005.
To draw any lessons learnt, if you like.
Concreters given the green light this afternoon to start filling the hole. In Rockdale, Erin Ramsey, 9 News.
There were lengthy traffic delays in Sydney's west this afternoon after a serious truck accident on the M4. Emergency services were called around 3 o'clock after a truck crashed into a concrete barrier at Greystanes. The motorway was closed in both directions, traffic stretching back 12 kilometres. The 40-year-old truck driver was taken to Westmead Hospital in a serious condition. Telstra's boss has apologised after a 90-minute outage had fatal consequences. A Melbourne man died after suffering a cardiac arrest, his family unable to dial 000 this morning. Telstra operators could not transfer calls and instead had to resort to emailing details to agency call takers.
It's dangerous and it's alarming, and what's really concerning is it doesn't really seem that there was a decent backup system there to step in.
Callers in New South Wales were not affected. Voters in the outer suburban Melbourne seat of Dunley will tomorrow deliver a temperature check on the political state of play. Labor currently holds the seat, but the punishing cost of living could be the catalyst for what's predicted to be a close contest.
A pint-sized poly peddler ahead of a tight race.
And you got the seatbelt on as well.
Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton duking it out in Dunley.
You want one of those? You got me.
A seaside scrap that'll shape the broader political fight.
I don't think this government takes the protection of our borders or the protection of the community seriously.
A fear campaign about everything and a solution for nothing.
Labor holds Dunley by a deceptively comfortable 6% margin. The death of popular local MP Peter Murphy and cost of living pressures have left the seat exposed to potential Liberal plunder.
We'll do what we can to put more dollars in people's pockets.
He's not putting in place policies which are helping people.
In the background, right-wing group Advance has been running a shadow campaign drumming up fear about criminal detainees released into the community, unintentionally aided by Victoria Police arresting a former detainee on sexual assault charges. Wrongly, it turned out.
And for that we are sincerely sorry.
But Deputy Opposition Leader Susan Lee had already taken to Twitter. If you do not want to see Australian women being assaulted by foreign criminals, vote against Labor.
That tweet, I think, reflects badly.
As a woman, I am not taking a backward step on this.
The ALP and the Liberals both say tomorrow's by-election will be tight. Some cabinet ministers have told 9 News Labor might even lose, which would be a big blow to the Prime Minister, whose candidate doesn't have the profile of her Liberal rival, the local mayor.
I'm Jodie. How are you, Mick? Nice to meet you. Yeah.
The bride, the boy.
Different Jodie.
My second favourite Jodie.
This Jodie will be glad. Andrew Probyn, 9 News.
A decision by Facebook's parent company to stop paying for Australian news content has been slammed by the Albanese government as a dereliction of its responsibility. The move from Meta, which could rip tens of millions of dollars from news outlets, has been met with fury.
That's not the Australian way.
Australian publishers deserve fair compensation for the content they produce and which is provided on Meta's platforms.
The government has signalled it's prepared to enforce the Media Bargaining Code, which could result in hefty fines for the social media giant. There have been desperate and chaotic scenes in Gaza City, where more than 100 Palestinians have been killed after Israeli troops reportedly opened fire. The incident unfolded during a rare aid delivery and has been described as a massacre, but the Israeli Defence Forces say its troops were under threat.
A stampede of desperation. Palestinians swarming around the first load of food to enter northern Gaza in weeks. But as they sought help, Israel's military is accused of opening fire. Aid trucks attempting to escape, running civilians over. More than 700 people injured, at least 100 people killed, in a death toll only expected to rise. We ran towards the food aid to get some. The soldiers and the tanks fired at us. Israel's military says its soldiers were threatened and claimed troops attempted to disperse the crowd with a few warning shots.
No IDF strike was conducted towards the aid convoy.
A conflicting account against the Hamas-run Gaza Health Ministry, who has called the incident a massacre. What is happening to us is unjust, it is unfair, this Palestinian man says. We are people who just want to live and eat. Today the Pentagon citing a devastatingly high death toll. At least 25,000 Palestinians have died in the enclave, according to Gaza's health ministry.
Far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed over the course of this conflict.
Today's deadly incident has only increased pressure on America to secure a ceasefire deal. But the president admits it also complicates those delicate negotiations.
Hope springs eternal.
For vulnerable citizens caught in the crossfire of war, hope is running out. In the United States, Lauren Tomasi, 9 News.
For the first time, state and federal politicians have been uninvited from this year's Eid prayers at Lakemba Mosque. The Lebanese Muslim Association today saying it came to the decision after community outrage over the government's handling of the Israel-Gaza war. It's also joined several other organisations in rejecting government invitations to Ramadan events. A series of Sydney terrace and apartment designs have been compiled as a new potential blueprint for a mass rollout as the state government looks to address the housing shortage. But as ideas for fast-tracking supply roll in, the opposition is asking how many thought bubbles are about to burst.
The Premier's off-the-plan purchase...
And you got a new home too, Macy.
A 6-storey social housing complex in Campbelltown, as Chris Minns continues plugging the supply crisis as his top priority.
If we don't allow young people to have an opportunity to buy and rent in New South Wales, they will up and leave.
The latest strategy, a new lookbook, including terraces from Darlington, Camperdown and Beaconsfield, as well as apartments in Bondi, Surrey Hills and Willoughby, released today, aimed at inspiring the design of pre-approved patterns for low and mid-rise developments. There's no shortage of ideas from the government, but the pace of any actual progress is being questioned. The pattern book is delayed, as is a government land audit, which is supposed to be freeing up space to build on.
Just about every aspect of Chris Minns' plans to deal with New South Wales' housing crisis is now in tatters.
And the much-touted proposal to redevelop Rosehill Racecourse could go the same way.
Will you admit now that this proposal is in fact dead?
No, it may not yield a result, but I think it's better to have those conversations than to not have those conversations.
Conceding a conversation may be all it ever is. At State Parliament, Liz Daniels, 9 News.
Any concerns the NRL's Las Vegas gamble would be an international fizzer were today put to rest. Around 5,000 fans witnessed a spectacular season launch, America's gaming mecca embracing rugby league's historic season opener.
It was the night that the heart of old Vegas found a new love. The sport of rugby league, a game that's unforgiving and unpredictable as its new partner.
Oh, it's a moment I'll never forget. You know, it's a lot of planning, a lot of work.
There were bright lights, flying mascots and rock bands, but it was the players who were the stars.
Are you Hollywood Reece Walsh or Vegas Reece Walsh?
Oh, mate, I'm Brizzy Reece Walsh, mate. They're the best town, best city, best fans in the world. I love Vegas, so I'm loving Vegas. It's good.
While the youngsters lapped it up, the old-timers were in awe.
This is unreal. Crazy, man. Never experienced anything like this. Crazy. You appreciate that this is a real moment in history?
Yeah, I do. Especially at my age, I do understand how lucky we are. We're playing the first game in Las Vegas, potentially in front of a really big crowd at a stadium where the Super Bowl was just played.
Feels a little bit rock star-ish, doesn't it?
It does have a little bit of a feel. I don't think I'm a rock star, but it does make you feel a little bit special.
For Vegas veteran Victor, it was a different vibe.
I've enjoyed my time here. It's a bit different this time. I've actually seen outside during the day, so that's good.
The coaches have work to do, with the games less than 48 hours away.
You're going to have to refocus them.
We definitely will. I think probably the guys are blown away by how many people turn up for this. And it's a great experience, mate, to do this in Vegas.
Feels like it's going to work.
Yeah, I feel like it will.
In Las Vegas, Danny Weidler, 9 News.
Let's now check on today's weather. Hi, Belinda.
Evening, Georgie. Cloudy conditions across Sydney today. That southerly change finally arriving at around 8 p.m. last night. The highest wind gust recorded at the airport reaching 54 kilometres per hour just before 1 a.m. Today, though, southerlies turning easterly at lunchtime, so the mercury kept climbing. The city peaking at 27.9 just before 5 p.m. The high humidity making it feel a few degrees warmer, sitting above 75% for most of the day. Tops in our west about 1 to 3 degrees above the March average. Penrith stopping at 30.3, nearly 10 degrees cooler than yesterday. Some isolated showers and thunderstorms across New South Wales this afternoon, and there are more on the way this weekend. I'll be back with a forecast after sport, Georgie.
Thanks, Belinda. Still to come, a scuffle between police and patrons at a Lithgow pub. The takedown by an officer that a court has heard was a disgraceful abuse of power. Sparks fly at Newtown, an electrical emergency as a power line comes down. White Island verdict, a New Zealand judge orders millions of dollars in compensation over the deadly volcano tourist disaster. And the Hawaiian tourist in a rental car who took a very wrong turn. Part of Newtown was cordoned off this afternoon when a power line came down, sparking an electrical fire just off King Street. Passers-by captured the moment the wires began popping and crackling at around 2:30, sending flames and sparks shooting out onto the road, damaging one car. A dramatic arrest in Lithgow has come under scrutiny as two men try to clear their names in court. Their lawyer has accused a senior constable of a disgraceful abuse of power, revealing to 9 News they'll be suing police over the encounter.
A pub scuffle with police takes a violent turn.
Going and leg sweeping people without any warning and knocking them down to the back of their head, then jumping on them with a boot and then kneeling on a head is just not on.
Yeah, mate, he's hurting, mate.
It was last May at the Seven Valleys Hotel in Lithgow. Officers suspicious of 4 friends in a bathroom cubicle.
Do not move. I'm Lieutenant Senior Constable O'Brien from Lithgow Police.
Yeah,
so you're under arrest for possession of a prohibited drug.
No, I'm not.
Videos don't capture all of the toilet encounter, including pepper spray being deployed. One man was arrested, but Lachlan Lennon and Alex Conlon were given water, then told to leave. They were doing just that when their lawyer claims Senior Constable Philip O'Brien went on a rampage. Lennon kicked in the groin before Conlon is taken down in a leg sweep, smacking the back of his head. The award-winning officer conceding in court he didn't follow protocol and warn the duo before grabbing them. The prosecution arguing it was obvious to the high heavens what they were in trouble for. The two men are charged with hindering police, but their lawyer says there's no case to answer, alleging what happened here was an abuse of power.
You just can't have police officers going around acting like they're in the Wild West.
On top of the fight to clear their names, the men will also sue over their treatment, which included being strip-searched. In Lithgow, Tiffany Genders, 9 News.
A judge has ordered the families of victims and survivors of the Whakaari White Island disaster be paid more than $9.5 million in reparations. 6 parties were today sentenced in an Auckland court after a lengthy trial. More than $2 million in fines were also handed down.
Risk of harm arising from these failures was significant and ever present. The realised risk was catastrophic.
Clearly, we are deeply sorry about the whole incident.
There were 47 people at the volcano when it erupted in 2019. 22 people were killed, including 17 Australians. At least 40 people have been killed in a fire in a multi-storey building in Bangladesh. 75 people were rescued, with dozens of those taken to hospital. It's believed the blaze started in a restaurant. A wrong turn in the dark had a terrible ending for a tourist in Hawaii when he accidentally drove his rental car off a cliff. The man was able to swim to shore and was taken to hospital. The car took a little longer to retrieve. Still to come tonight, out of control on a Penrith street. A car flips and rolls multiple times, narrowly missing a house. Flowers for Kate. Prince William back at work with a message from his wife amid growing concerns about her health. Also tonight, the appalling blowout in Centrelink waiting times. Plus, after a horror summer of drownings, Western Sydney students given vital beach safety lessons, but police are tonight investigating whether a 30-year-old man was drunk and speeding when his car flipped and rolled several times at South Penrith. The Holden sedan narrowly missed a home with a family sleeping inside.
It was over in seconds. A car speeding down York Road loses control. Sparks fly as it flips through a front yard and onto the reserve across the street, rolling multiple times.
I heard the bang. It was raining a bit earlier, so maybe some freak storm.
It was a big bang, hit something, and then we could just hear the car going roll, 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 roll.
In its path, it took down a lamp post, a no stopping sign, and the garden bed in Josh's front yard.
Definitely at first thought that someone would have hit the house.
Neighbours were the first on scene, helping the driver, who had to be removed from the car.
People started to come from all the houses. There were quite a few people down there, all gathered around the guy.
The 30-year-old man suffered serious injuries to his back, his car a crumpled mess. Residents have told 9 News the car was seen driving around the road earlier that night, and some say they heard screeching in the minutes before the crash. Police also investigating whether speed and alcohol were factors. In South Penrith, Massilia Eiley, 9 News.
The Prince of Wales has returned to royal duties days after mysteriously skipping a memorial service attended by most of the family. He's condemned a rise in anti-Semitism amid the Israel-Gaza war while meeting members of London's Jewish community.
Prince William back at work 2 days after pulling out of a major royal engagement at the last minute, visiting a London synagogue to meet with young representatives of the Jewish community who explain how students across the UK are dealing with a rise in anti-Semitic incidents amid the Israel-Hamas war.
Sadly, it really has proven to be a real challenge post-October the 7th.
The heir to the throne's response published via the Prince and Princess of Wales' social media accounts.
So you've heard it from me, anti-Semitism has no place in society. You've heard that from me. Both Catherine and I are extremely concerned about the rise of anti-Semitism that you guys have talked about, so it's horrible. And I'm just so sorry any of you had to experience that.
This is the second time in as many weeks Prince William has expressed his concern about what's going on in the war. It's rare for any member of the royal family to make public remarks about topics like this. Last week he said too many people are being killed on both sides of the conflict. Today's visit included meeting 94-year-old Holocaust survivor Renee Salt, who also wished to speak about the Princess of Wales, who's recovering from abdominal surgery. Out of sight, but on people's minds, another gifting flowers for the princess.
These are for Her Royal Highness. We just want to wish her well and look forward to seeing her very soon.
That's really kind.
In London, Edward Godfrey, 9 News.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin has given his annual State of the Nation address, warning the world is at risk of nuclear war if the West sends troops to Ukraine. Meanwhile, Queen Camilla has welcomed Ukraine's First Lady to the UK, Olena Zelenska, giving her thanks for the King's recent message of support. The length of time Australians are waiting for Centrelink support has been revealed, with 133,000 claims taking longer to process than agency standards. More than 20,000 people applying for the aged pension were forced to wait more than 49 days, while another 30,000 on low-income support faced delays of around a month. The Albanese government says 3,000 new staff are working to clear the backlog. This summer will go down as one of the worst in recent years for drownings, nearly 100 people losing their lives across the country. Surf lifesavers have done their part, carrying out more than 5,500 rescues. But tonight, experts are warning the drowning risk is at a generational high.
The world-famous Waves of Bondi. And for many of these international students, today was their first time in the surf.
I've only seen oceans in movies.
It was scary at first, but when the time passed by and when we get used to it, it gets super fun.
Western Sydney University swapping the lecture hall for the sand to teach beach safety.
Telling us how to float to survive. I do think it's very useful.
I was very afraid to go to the water, but now I'm very confident.
There were 99 drownings in Australia over summer. 55 of those were on the coast. 84% of coastal drownings were male, while rip currents remained the number one danger, responsible for 29% of deaths. Safety in the pool, just as important. Parents at Seven Hills investing their time and money.
I've kind of told my boys it's non-negotiable that they'll be swimming at least until the end of primary school.
But many school-aged children are missing out.
There are many people that simply can't afford swimming lessons. They rely on the school system, and the school system's simply not able to support their swimming and water safety abilities.
Royal Lifesaving Australia says a lack of facilities, funding and training mean in some areas trips to the pool are a rare opportunity, and school carnivals are being scrapped entirely. Prior to the pandemic, 40% of kids leaving primary school were unable to swim 50 metres. That number has now doubled in some areas.
in some communities, it might be 80-90% of children simply leave school not being able to swim or float. So we've got to figure this out, otherwise each and every summer for the next decade or more, we're going to be talking about tragic cases.
In Seven Hills, Madison Scott, 9 News.
Ahead in 9 News, the new link between air pollution and Alzheimer's disease, groundbreaking research from Sydney scientists. Also, the staggering amount we could soon be paying for a coffee. And in Sport with Emma, the Super Bowl stadium is now in rugby league mode.
Yes, how good, Georgie. The transformation took place today and our cameras were there as the NRL footy field was rolled into Allegiant Stadium ahead of Sunday's doubleheader. Back home, the Panthers are plotting a 4th straight premiership as the season was launched in Sydney. Plus, the Aussie tail wags before wickets tumble on a wild day of the first test in Wellington.
And showers expected across Sydney this weekend, so will we get any sunshine? The forecast is coming up soon.
Less than a fortnight ago, Allegiant Stadium was home to the Super Bowl. Today, it underwent an almighty makeover to get it rugby league ready. And there are now predictions as many as 45,000 fans could attend the season-opening doubleheader.
In a city which generally operates at light speed, the process of installing the playing surface for Sunday's doubleheader happened in slow motion. But it was worth the wait as Allegiant Stadium was transformed from a Super Bowl venue into the NRL's newest frontier. Watching their wildest dreams become a reality, Chairman Peter V'landys and his CEO Andrew Abdo.
It's your field of dreams moment, isn't it, having the field rolled in? It's quite surreal to be here in America, in the entertainment capital, Vegas, and you're going to watch a field of turf being brought in on railway lines, so you can't get any better than that.
It's a tight squeeze. The ground is 4 metres narrower than normal.
The narrow field. I mean, everyone's talking about it. Are you worried about that? No, not at all. It's minor, really. It's not that big a deal. They play on that size in Super League in England.
One place where there'll be plenty of room to stretch out, this suite, which will house V'landys VIPs on Sunday. During the Super Bowl, each booth was hired out for $20 million.
It's important to make a big impression first up, isn't it? Absolutely, and that's why we've got this room, because it's got a wow factor. So all our special guests and all our sponsors, and we've got some very high-profile US politicians, they'll all be in this room, and hopefully it's going to generate a lot of revenues for us in the future. You must feel pretty proud.
Look, I'll be prouder after the game, I think, when it's all over and we can analyse if it's been successful or not.
In Las Vegas, Danny Weidler, 9 News.
And for those teams not in Vegas, there was an NRL launch in Sydney today. The Panthers declaring they're hungry for a four-peat and determined to prove those doubters wrong. Another year of footy and another year for the Panthers to etch their names in the history books. They're looking to become the first team to win 4 in a row since the Great Dragons team that won 11 straight in the 50s and 60s.
Obviously it was the 3-peat couldn't be done and we managed to do that, so everyone's going to be saying the 4-peat can't be done and that's a long way away, but that's certainly the goal and it's been discussed in the pre-season.
And here's a warning for the rest of the competition.
I feel like there's levels in individuals in the team that can go steps higher and that's exciting, I think. So, I feel like everyone talks about the window and the closing and the opening for certain teams. I feel like our window's certainly still open.
Would you say this group is addicted to winning?
Yeah, I think we're addicted to getting better. So that's not just on a whole team level, that's individually.
The Tigers got the wooden spoon last year and they're happy to be written off.
If anything, it's a good thing. Like I said, there's no expectation on us, so no one's expecting us to do anything good. So I guess it's sort of like a flying under the radar type thing.
The skipper still pinching himself that Benji Marshall is at the helm.
I've done a fair few things in my life, but to be coached by one of my idols is pretty incredible.
It was wild in Wellington on day 2 of the first cricket test. Cameron Green and Josh Hazlewood teeing off with the bat before wickets started to tumble. At stumps, Australia is 2 for 13 in their second innings, leading New Zealand by 217 runs.
Australia's bowlers were ready to go, but there was still some batting to do.
He's hit it the whole way as well.
Cameron Green had no intention of fielding.
Oh, goodness me. Wow.
Josh Hazlewood happy to wait to get the ball in his hand.
Beautiful.
The pair's 116-run stand was Australia's highest final wicket partnership against New Zealand. Green finishing 174 not out, his top test score. The Aussies taking their total to 383. When it was time to bowl, Stark struck early.
Oh, there it is.
2 balls later, a catastrophic communication breakdown.
And he wants to run, got to hurry, he's a mix-up. Well, I cannot believe it.
And that is just a disaster for New Zealand.
Kane Williamson walking off for a duck, the Black Caps' top order collapsing.
And Lyon has snaffled him.
5 for 29 at one stage, some lower order hitting from Glenn Phillips and Matt Henry saving total embarrassment. But 4 wickets to Lyon ensured Australia still held a 204-run lead. They may have regretted not enforcing the follow-on.
Got him! Yes!
Steve Smith out third ball, Marnus Labuschagne falling for 2. Lyon lucky to survive the last delivery of the day. Luke Dovesey, 9 News.
Well, as Cameron Green starred in the New Zealand capital, Toby Green was tearing it up in Canberra. The Giants skipper kicking 3 goals in a 105-61 practice match victory over the Suns at Manuka Oval. A huge improvement from last week's loss to the Swans.
To ramp it up a bit this week, we were probably a bit off our tucker last week and probably lacked a bit of intensity in the way we played.
GWS begin their season against Collingwood next Saturday. Swans recruit Taylor Adams' first game in the red and white didn't go to plan. The former Magpie limped from Blacktown International Sports Park after a knock to his knee in the third quarter. Last year's grand finalists were too strong, the Lions winning by 25 points. The Waratahs will play Mark Nwanganita-Wase in tomorrow night's Super Round clash against the Crusaders, confident the Wallabies winger has overcome a hamstring concern.
He just wanted to get out of Tuesday training. He's come good. Yeah, he's just had me tight a little bit Tuesday morning. But the medical staff's worked well.
Centre Isaiah Parisi will miss the match due to concussion symptoms. Georgie, 2 more sleeps until the NRL is back. Bring it on.
Bring it on indeed. Thank you, Emma. Still ahead, the new link between air pollution and Alzheimer's disease. How the price of a coffee could soon hit $6. An explosive end after a World War II bomb was discovered on a beach. And get a mullet or jump out of a plane? Nine's Hayley Francis makes her choice for mental health awareness.
Investors are still confident this is going to be a good year, one with interest rate cuts and economic growth. And with that in mind, the share market finished the week at its highest level ever. This is the entire history of the ASX 200 index. You can see the GFC, the COVID crash, and here we are now, sitting on top of it all. And these are some of the stocks that have pushed us there this year. Big gains have been seen from Wesfarmers, which owns Kmart and Bunnings, and major banks have also outperformed, while BHP has lost more than 10% so far this year, and Woolworths isn't far behind. As for today, an almost 50-point rise, half the gain for the week, and the Aussie dollar finished the week on a stronger note, buying 65 US cents and 60 euro cents.
Thank you, Chris. Australian researchers have uncovered a link between dementia and air pollution. They found a tiny particle in pollution can induce signs and symptoms of Alzheimer's disease after performing experiments on mice and human brain cells.
And what we found was the magnetite nanoparticles had the most consistent effect in inducing Alzheimer's disease signs and symptoms.
The particles are usually emitted from brake pads and vehicle exhaust. It's enough to leave a bitter taste in your mouth. The price of an average coffee could soon hit $6 as costs spike at cafes around the country. Industry experts saying despite the best efforts of businesses, it's inevitable.
For most, it's a daily dose, sometimes twice. But analysts say coffee lovers should be bracing for an unwanted milestone.
$6 a coffee could be just around the corner.
The price of coffee beans remains elevated, but cafes could be charging $6 for a latte within months due to sharply higher shipping costs and local inflation hitting labour, power and rents.
It really could be weeks.
Economists say it's part of a trend. Australians are forced to add, on average, $1 extra for their coffee every 2 years. But this time, we'll push the boundaries.
And it may mean that more consumers change to servo coffee or even back to the old-fashioned can of instant coffee.
Australians drink on average 4.5 kilos of coffee each per year. If and when the price hits $6 a cup, then one a day means $42 a week, or close to $2,200 a year. Trevor Simmons owns Industry Beans. He says businesses are doing everything they can to delay the price hikes, but it's a losing battle. Depending on what you order, the price of a coffee has likely already cracked $6. The majority of customers now ask for extras and alternatives, all pushing up the cost.
People jump up and down when the cost goes up 20 cents, but majority of people are just adding on bits and pieces to their everyday coffee.
But soon, even a simple latte will be giving customers the jitters. Chris Kohler, 9 News.
Sending sand and water flying, a World War II bomb has been detonated on Belgium's coast. The 100-kilogram explosive was found around 20 kilometres from Dunkirk. Jumping out of a plane with a bold new haircut might sound a little intimidating, but that's exactly what a group of Australians did today. The hair-raising event for the Black Dog Institute, bringing awareness to mental health research.
It's an acquired style, making a strong comeback. Mullets, now the driving force behind a new campaign taken to new heights.
I'm getting a mullet for mental health.
If the courage to rock one of these wasn't enough, this leap of faith speaks volumes.
One person, one email, one text message, one phone call, it seems like the littlest of things, but to someone else it's everything.
By leaping out of the plane, we're showing that bravery and that first step towards better mental health research.
The Black Dog Institute today launching its Mullets for Mental Health fundraiser. Supporters getting a haircut, then jumping from 15,000 feet. The not-for-profit having already raised close to $12 million in 4 years from this campaign alone.
Working on this campaign is something I'm super proud of, all for making better mental health outcomes for people around Australia and the programs and services that Black Dog does.
Donations this year will go towards the prevention of suicide, which remains the leading cause of death in males aged 15 to 44.
Don't bottle up my emotions anymore, and reaching out is the best thing I've ever done. I've never looked back.
Way easier. Just feel like I can talk. I'm not alone, and neither is anybody else.
If I can take the leap, people can take the leap and get help.
In Wollongong, Hayley Francis, 9 News.
Well done, Hayley. Coming up, Belinda with the weekend weather.
Thanks, Georgie. A storm hitting Sydney southwest right now, tracking to the northeast. A warning has been issued for heavy rainfall, damaging winds and large hail. Right now it's 26 degrees in the city and 28 in our west. That weekend forecast is next. Welcome back. Gloomy skies for the first day of March. That southerly change arriving last night, bringing gusty winds, but not much rain for Sydney. A small storm cell lighting up the sky near Putty, northwest of our city. Top temperatures today about 1 to 3 degrees above average. Campbelltown the hottest, hitting 31. The city stopping at 28, but felt a few degrees warmer thanks to that high humidity. Across New South Wales, some isolated showers and thunderstorms this afternoon. So far, parts of the Hunter copping the biggest drenching. Parkville, north of Scone, recording 40 millimetres. A hot day across inland New South Wales. Narrabri soaring to 40. That's about 9 degrees hotter than usual for this time of year. The Riverina also sweltering through the day. Griffith hitting 39. 11 degrees above average. Let's get on to the weekend, and tomorrow showers and storms are expected to intensify over inland New South Wales. We've also got a trough moving along the coast, reaching the far north in the evening or overnight. Brisbane escaping the rain, sunny and a top of 33 tomorrow. A possible shower and 28 in Canberra. A morning shower or two in Melbourne. Fine and 28 for Adelaide. Perth, a possible shower and 34. Back home and on the map you can see those scattered showers and isolated thunderstorms in the east. The heaviest falls expected on the north coast in the afternoon and evening, with up to 20 millimetres forecast for Coffs Harbour. Daytime temperatures remaining well above average in the northern inland. Burke reaching 40 degrees. A cooler day in the southwest, but still very warm for this time of year, with a high fire danger across the eastern Riverina. A top of 32 degrees in Albury. Hopefully the sunshine returning to Sydney tomorrow, with parts partly cloudy conditions. There is a high chance of showers as well as the chance of a thunderstorm. Up to 8 millimetres forecast in our west and 3 millimetres in the east. The winds picking up in the middle of the day with moderate to fresh south to southeasterlies. Tops around 27 to 30 degrees in our west, and the city also heading for a top of 27. Overnight lows about 5 to 6 degrees above average. Most suburbs only dropping to 23. A warmer day on Sunday, 29 the top for the city, partly cloudy with a medium chance of showers, most likely in the late afternoon or evening. Then a cooler start to the new week with cloudy skies, warming up again on Wednesday, reaching 29 by the end of the week. Our west heating up to 32 on Sunday, then a huge drop on Monday with a top of just 23, staying fine for most of the week, and thankfully some cooler nights on the way as well, Georgie.
We'll enjoy that. Thanks, Belinda. And that is 9 News for this Friday. Ali is up next with the current affair. I'm Georgie Gardner. Thanks for being with us. Enjoy your evening. Good night.